get clear about some facts in this story here. Did Nigel Farage stay at that townhouse near Buckingham Palace, which costs thousands of pounds a month?
Well, just to be clear, George Cottrell is an old friend of Nigel Farage's. He did give support to Nigel before he was a Member of Parliament. He hasn't done so since he became a Member of Parliament. No rules have been broken whatsoever. This is basically a very old story that has been dredged up by the Sunday Times, which is a Labour-supporting newspaper, in order to try and drag Nigel down. And it's not going to succeed.
I'd like you to engage, though, in the specifics about this story. There are new allegations. As you say, people have known for a time that George Cottrell and Nigel Farage are friends, but there are new claims in the newspaper this morning. Did Nigel Farage stay in that townhouse that's being rented by George Cottrell?
I believe Nigel has said that he stayed a couple of times there, very infrequently, as you're allowed to. I mean, Nigel Farage is allowed to have friends. As a politician, you're allowed to stay at a friend's house. And certainly, remember, Nigel was not an elected politician. He was, if you like, an ex-politician at the time. He was somebody in the private world who was not even considering standing for Parliament. He'd ruled it out, and this was a friendship that he had with someone who was helping him. So I honestly don't see what the story is here, other than just yet another attempt by certain parts of the media to try and muckrake about somebody who is actually trying to shake up the system and challenge the status quo.
There are two very important facts, though. During this period in 2024, Nigel Farage was the honorary president of Reform UK. He was still this very big political figure.
Well, he wasn't a member of Parliament.
And the rules say very clearly that people who become MPs should declare things that were registered, any benefits to them in the 12 months before their election. Well, that's the rule. That is the rule.
You have omitted the second half of the rule, which is that you don't have to declare things where they're purely personal. And the allegation, if you like, that you've put to me is that Nigel Farage, maybe a couple of times, I don't know precisely, stayed in the home of a personal friend.
And does he still stay there?
So by definition, that does not fall within the rules.
Does he still stay there?
Not as far as I'm aware, but I don't know. You're allowed to stay at the home of a personal friend. It feels to me, Laura, as if parts of the media, particularly those who are desperate for there to be a Labour government, want to try to constantly smear Nigel, because he is at the moment leading in the polls. He has done on 350 occasions.
And I'd like
if I may make this point, what is their primary motive? It's because Nigel is the only person who is going to bring about real change in this country, who is going to tackle the issues that the cosy consensus of politicians, Labour and Conservative, and much of the media have neglected to for a long time.
Our motive this morning, Robert Jenrick, is to get specific answers to specific questions.
Immigration is out of control. Nigel's the only person who has the courage and conviction to fix these challenges. That's why people are scared of him.
There's no secret that George Cottrell's been a personal friend of Nigel Farage for a long time. But the allegations of this morning is that he's done much more than a normal personal friend was done, that he has given him use of an expensive townhouse in London, and also that he has paid for Nigel Farage's staff and his security. So I'd like you to address these specific questions. Did George Cottrell pay for any of Nigel Farage's staff in 2024?
Before he became a Member of Parliament, yes, absolutely.
He did.
And that's but this is important, you're sort of papering over that. That's a very important point. You're allowed to accept a gift, support, whatever you want to call it, from a personal friend before you're a Member of Parliament, if it's in a purely personal capacity. So there is absolutely nothing to see in this story.
What's a personal capacity when it is staff creating social media content?
Well, when you're a GB News presenter and you've just been on The Jungle, you do create social media content.
Okay.
That's nothing to do with his job as a Member of Parliament, because he wasn't a Member of Parliament. He'd said he wasn't going to become a Member of Parliament. So, I completely respect your right to ask these questions, but what's actually going on here is something bigger than this. It's that day after day, parts of the media are putting these stories forward, and they're not working. Why are they not working? Because millions of people in this country see, as I do, a country that is in dire straits. in need of radical change. They know
Robert
that
Jenrick,
the Tory party, the Labour Party, are not going to deliver that. They know that Nigel is the man who's going to do it because he has been fighting this fight for 25 years.
But Robert Jenrick, you yourself said recently that there were legitimate questions around Nigel Farage's financial arrangements.
Well, I said that journalists can ask questions.
Right.
For sure.
So let's try and get some more answers.
These are not legitimate questions.
You can of course answer them in any way you wish.
Have been broken here.
Did George Cottrell pay for Nigel Farage's security in 2024?
Before he became a member of Parliament. Yeah, Reform has been completely open about this. A private citizen who's worried about his own personal security, and by the way, every time Nigel has raised with the authorities his personal security and that of his family, because without question, he is the most endangered person in public life. The authorities have chosen to do next to nothing to help him. I think that's a disgrace. It's perfectly legitimate for a personal friend to offer you security. The question really is, did he need to report this? No, because it was a personal friend and it was before he was a member of Parliament. There's nothing to see here.
What's confusing about this,
Laura, are you
George
going to
Cottrell?
spend the whole of this interview asking about this rather than the issues that people really care about?
What's confusing about this issue of security is that Nigel Farage said that the money from Christopher Harborne was for his personal security.
But that came after this, Laura.
So you are convinced that absolutely nothing has gone wrong here?
Absolutely no rules have been broken. This is, I'm afraid, a very old story that has been dredged up by the Sunday Times, which supported the Labour Party at the last election.
But the problem...
And let me ask this question. When you've got a new Prime Minister coming in 2 weeks' time, about whom we know next to nothing, you know, you've had a bit of a debate on the programme today, but none of the questions are answered about what his agenda is for this country. Why is the Sunday Times and the media establishment not prosecuting the case on
problem that you have
Burnham,
here, well, we've already been discussing Andy Burnham for at least half an hour on the programme. But no, I want to ask the problem for you.
I'm on the programme today to warn your viewers that Andy Burnham is going to raise their taxes. We've already had £66 billion of tax raises. And remember, Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves said they wouldn't do this. They broke their promises. We've got Andy Burnham already intimating that he's going to hike taxes. He's not prepared to cut the ballooning benefits bill to pay for defence, to pay for the things that our country needs, like better public services. Taxes are going to go up. He has no mandate for that. If he wants to do that, have a general election. Test that with the British public. Don't just do it by the back door.
And it's not clear, as you say, what he would do around tax. Well, he said that there is room for manoeuvre, was his phrase.
There isn't room for tax increases. We've got taxes at record highs, people's wages are stagnating, bills are going through the roof, good jobs are being lost, there's 1 million young people who are out of work and not even in training. This country is going down and down and down. That's why we need reform, and that is why the establishment are trying to stop us.
On one of the specifics, though, that Andy Burnham has said, he said that he would cut taxes for small hospitality, for pubs, for other small retailers. Would you oppose that?
Well, that is small beer. Look what's actually happened.
No, but would you oppose it? Is that you're saying
if he's going to do something? If he's going to do something, my point is this: he wants to make a tiny change, as I understand it, a 20% cut. For sure, we'd support that, but we want to go miles further than that. Rachel Reeves has battered hospitality businesses with increases in business rates, with massive hikes in employers' national insurance. And remember, Reform is the only party that has promised to reverse Rachel Reeves's increase in employers' national insurance for British workers.
So you would support that?
Paid for by a levy on migrant labour to push British businesses to employ British workers. And today, we're going further than that. We're saying when the British government procures things, like defence, for example, they should back British businesses. Scrap the nonsense the last Conservative government created, the social value test, and have two very simple principles. Is it good value for money for the hard-pressed British taxpayer? And is it going to lead to more jobs for British businesses? A Reform government, and here's the big difference with what's gone before them, a Reform government will always put the interests of the British people first. That shouldn't be controversial, but it has been. Social housing, benefits, procurement within government, taxes. Successive governments have always put foreign citizens above British citizens.
And successive governments that you were part of as a Conservative before you left to go to Reform. The tricky thing for you as a party, and we appreciate you coming in this morning, is that allegations about Nigel Farage's finances keep coming. He's already being investigated over a £5 million gift. we know now that he earned £270,000 for 12 hours work. But your message to the country is that you are the party standing up for working people.
But why?
That's a contradiction, is it not? Your
No,
message is all about working people.
If that
and the amounts of money.
Laura, why have we ahead in 350 opinion polls? Why do all of the polls show that the body of support out there for reform are working people? People who are out there getting up early in the morning, putting in the hours to look after their families. What remains of the Tory party? They're for Belgravia and the super rich. The Labour Party, that's for Benefit Street. We are for the 80% in the middle, the people who are finding life tough at the moment. And are you telling me that Nigel Farage doesn't stand up for those people, that his principles have changed? He has been the most consistent politician in this country in my lifetime. I was a teenager, let that sink in, a teenager, when Nigel Farage first started to talk about the impact that mass migration would have on working people, undercutting their wages.
And as a teenager, you chose to join the Conservative Party and said...
Might destroy
but I just want to ask you a final question.
He's the only man, Laura, who will fix this country and get it back on its feet again.
Some of your colleagues, including the former chair of Reform, a very senior Reform politician, Dr David Bull, said recently that Nigel Farage should take some time out and have a bit of a break. Is he wrong or right?
Well, I'm all for people having a bit of a break over the summer holidays, but Nigel is the most hard-working politician I've ever met. He is more determined than ever, and Reform is getting ready for an early general election. We're recruiting our candidates, we're writing our manifesto. We are building a network across the country with our 300,000 members, and we're building out the platform so that if we're lucky enough to win the next general election, unlike Andy Burnham, unlike Keir Starmer, as we've just heard, we'll be ready to go.
So he's
and
not
we'll
going
actually
anywhere?
fix the country.
He's not going anywhere?
He's not going anywhere. I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Robert Jenrick, thank you very much indeed.